Today we're going to be going through a Mesa Boogie, and I have my friend Jose here. He plays guitar in Beyond Ties, and it's his amp. And yeah, tell us more about the amp, because I can't remember what model this is.
That's alright. How's it going, guys? Yeah, this is my Rectifier Roadster. It's, I mean, for those of you who are familiar with the Rectifier series amps, you'll probably recognize this as being the staple of, you know, the death metal scene, the nu metal scene, the 90s post-grunge and mid-2000s kind of thing. They're all over the place in that corner of the music scene. But yeah, it's big, they're fat, you know, they're nice and chunky sounding. This is the Roadster version, actually. So I mean, these models, I think they came out around 2006, and they ran for about like 10 odd years before they discontinued them. But it was essentially thought out as to be the younger brother of the infamous Road King, the giant 120 watt behemoth. So this, of course, is a much more like simplified version of that, but it does retain the same kind of voicing and the same kind of like characteristics that the Road King was known for, but just in a much more kind of user-friendly and much sort of like down to the basics of it. It's still got the 4 channels. It does have a darker voicing to it than you would find in the traditional sort of rectifiers, but it does sound a little bit more, I guess, more like controlled, a bit more focused, I would say. It's got a slightly darker tone to it, but I mean, to be honest, with a bit of EQing and a bit of like, you know, they still take OD pedals just as well as the other ones, and you can get that sort of high end back if you need to, and tighten up that low end as well, which I guess we can do in a little bit later on. So
yeah, chilling. So we're on channel 3 right now, yeah, and there's also different voicings on these amps. So like channel 3, it's got a raw mode, a vintage mode, and a modern mode. We did have a quick playthrough through some of the channels right now. We're gonna keep it real and not fuck around with any clean tones, because I don't.
That's
really
what we do here.
No, we don't need to worry about that. So
That's right.
We're currently on channel 3, and for like the black metal stuff, we decided what was the vintage setting, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 And this is what it sounds like. And it's a great sound.
It's a great sound, isn't it?
It's a great sound.
A good rectifier never disappoints.
And we were talking about this before, but there's a really nice openness from this amp. All the notes sing. Yeah, so if you're playing more of that kind of Blackthorn Mayhem style stuff with the picking the high notes, going to the lower note stuff, this amp will work really nicely for that, because I'm pretty sure Satyricon have been using Mesa Boogies for a while, and their guitar tones have always been really, really good. Who else uses Mesa Boogie? I know Cannibal Corpse uses Mesa.
Yeah, all throughout the death metal scene, especially like in the American death metal scene, you'll see them everywhere. Definitely, Cannibal Corpse kind of was one of those bands that sort of made it a bit famous more, but especially in the sort of Gothenburg type of thing. But yeah, this was super famous back in the 90s to, you know, get your average, you know, your classic heavy metal HM2 thing, boosting it all, you know, dying that thing all the way.
Yeah, it was like these Mesas, and I think like the JVMs were like some, no, JCMs, not the JVMs. Yeah, the JCMs at the time. It was either, like, most people either use like the Mesas or the JCMs. I don't have the JCM here anymore on my JVM, but yeah, and some of them have just been pedal slaves for HM2s, but you know, this is a cool sound. Like all of the single note stuff really. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about that kind of thing with this amp is because it's got a more modern type of voicing to it, and it's a bit darker as well than the standard stuff. It's not as harsh on the ear, so you can really go into those sort of, you know, heavy picking higher notes, and it won't be too harsh on the ears or anything like that.
Because that's what I found with the PV stuff. Every time I used one of those 6.505s, my ears just rung for hours.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much like piercing.
Yeah,
and it's really hard to like dial out because you want the high end treble, but you need, I don't know, man.
Yeah, you also want to be functional afterwards.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
real.
and you don't want to like blow people's heads off with
For
all
sure.
that
So
high-end stuff.
that's channel 3. And channel 4, what did we do in? Was it the modern mode on channel 4?
Yeah, so we've actually decided that the modern version, the modern mode on the channel 4 was something that I think worked just as well for that kind of thing. It's a bit more fuller sounding, but again, it's still focused. It still sounds sort of big, but it doesn't get too flubby. So yeah, we can
Let's
just
check it out. Yeah,
yeah,
let's go. It's much louder. Tight as well.
It's tight, yeah.
It's tight.
Gets tighter.
It doesn't have so much feedback as well. So and it just shuts up. It's great.
It's one of the things as well. I think I remember hearing so many complaints in general about people in Mesas and rectifiers about how noisy they are and how easily they feed back. This is actually very quiet for such a, you know, high gained out amp that we have at the moment, right?
And it's great because when I'm using any of the Engels, it's great that they have noise gates.
Yeah.
But you know, if you turn off the noise gate and stuff, you can always hear something like in the back. Like this is.
It's almost its own natural noise gate.
Yeah, it's just like natural amp noise, and it's great. But let's hear this a lot more because it's. See why Satyricon love these things, just for those single note stuff. This is really, really good, isn't it? Every note sings.
It does, absolutely.
Really sing. Like, how does it?
It's got a really nice built-in reverb as well, so for that kind of thing, you just whack that on. That's
yeah, it's definitely on. Just sings. That's so cool amp, man. Like
yeah. So like like I was telling Dev earlier, I did used to have a 3-channel triple rectifier, and which was incredible for the rhythm stuff, but it didn't quite do the leads the way that this amp does for me. And I'm a lead player. I'm heavily into sort of all kind of voicings in an amp, you know what I mean? I love the clean stuff, the rhythm stuff, and a good lead channel, and I think this just does it.
Yeah, man, like, I'm really impressed with this. I definitely prefer this over PV products, like, hands down. I like this more than the Black Star I had. I think for like the kind of black metal sound that I go for, I'm gonna lean towards like the JVM and the Engel stuff.
Sure.
Purely because like the actual low end as it is right now is not as focused as I like it personally. But that's going to change now because we're going to put some pedals through it. So I think, should we do it Cannibal Corpse style?
Let's do it.
All right,
if you want.
cool.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've just plugged in a Maxon SC9 Pro Plus, which is the same pedal that Cannibal Corpse use. This is the sound from the amp itself. And now let's engage the pedal. Yeah! It's all about that chonk, isn't it? That's a sound, man. That's wicked.
The attack that you can get out of this thing with a good OD pedal is insane.
That's a fucking. That's and we're not even on channel 4 yet.
We're not even on channel 4. I actually had to bring the gain down on the channel itself. And to be honest, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk too much about what we've done on the pedal here, but I mean, this is classic OD stuff into rectifier. You know what I mean? It's gain is basically nothing.
Yeah, don't need any of that really.
Dimed the tone, and level is pretty much high up as well. But that's all you need, because really you get most of what you need out of this as it is, but it just requires a bit of that control.
For sure, because the low end on this amp is, it gets in the flubby kind of region where it's not super tight, and it's a bit like I don't know how to explain it really, but it's not as it's not focused. Yes, too loose for my liking, because I like that tightness. But the loose low end isn't a bad thing. It's just a matter of taste.
And it depends on how you approach your rhythms and how you approach the guitar as well. Because if you're big into like big chords and all that stuff, then that's what that's good for, because it kind of makes everything sound very like buttery and unique and like all together. It gets that togetherness to it. But of course, when you have that kind of sound here, like with DOD, that requires a different kind of approach to playing.
For sure, yeah. It ultimately depends on like how tight or how fat you want your tone, because you can have a tight fat tone, but then you can't really control it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's usually one or the other. Like sometimes if you're working with two guitarists, it's usually like the one who's playing lead should have a tighter tone, and the one who's playing rhythm should have a bit more of a looser, bigger lower end focused guitar tone.
For sure.
As well. Sure. So let's try channel 4.
Try channel 4, yeah?
So this is channel 4. This is what it sounds like. Now for the pedal. a sound, man.
Thing.
That is sick.
It's angry.
That
this
is
thing
so sick.
Pissed off. Right? You really pissed it off now.
This is fantastic. Wait, this sings.
That's what we're talking about.
This sings. Should we try this for a 7-string? Let's give it a go. So this is the raw sound. That's without the pedal. Now with the pedal.
That's insane. So yeah, of course. I mean, once you add the overdrive pedals onto this, it's always better to kind of bring the gain down a tad.
Yes.
To get most of that attack out, and you do get a lot of attack out of this thing.
This is one hell of a sound. Like, why are Mesa Boogies not more popular in the UK? I mean, they are popular, but I mean, it's like
they always have been popular. The thing is, I think it's mostly been always a price situation versus the availability of it.
Okay, yeah.
Versus what's out there here in Europe versus back in the States. Because in the same way that Mesa Boogies have always been quite high-end and expensive amps here in the UK, while compared to in the US, where of course they're much more attainable. You can get these for like, you know, maybe $1,500 or something like that, or even less. They probably wouldn't have gone too far over the 2K mark. But Engel, for example, has been one of those extremely unattainable and expensive amps in the US, whereas here in the UK, they've always been super, super attainable and much more affordable, and they do very similar. Yes. You can get a very similar effect, than to this now.
It's kind of the approach, isn't it?
It is the approach.
And this is one thing to really stress, that none of the qualities and quirks of each amp are bad. It's all a matter of taste. Like, there's a reason why some people like the Mesa Boogies over the Marshalls and vice versa. It all depends on the kind of music you want to make, which comes down to your own creativity, your own individuality, and just your own level. Well, I guess whatever music you want to make.
For sure.
That kind of shit. But yeah, let's rip on this thing a lot more.
distorted tone.
Exactly, and these strings are over a year old.
And then imagine that. Imagine that, and you can still get that kind of attack out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely incredible.
This is one hell of an amp.
Yeah, it really is, man. And especially like for. So the cool thing about this amp is, of course, you get the 50 to 100 watt multi-watt feature. Like, you know, for each channel, you can choose which the wattage that you want out of it. So you can use this at home in your flat or whatever to a degree and actually still have fun with it. Whereas, of course, some of the older amps, even though they're huge and they sound fat and all that stuff, for bedroom use, they've always been a real pain in the butt, I think. So this is still an extremely versatile amp that you can use at varying degrees of levels and volumes, and still have it work really well. And yeah, as you can tell, it's not all that noisy either, which is something I love about it.
This is one hell of an amp, and I wish I was able to put a Mesa Boogie on this channel sooner, because the sounds are there, man. Like, you guys can get serious black metal sounds from this, you know, from even just straight out from the amp itself. And if you want to use a pedal, you know, I would recommend using a pedal with this amp. And it's monster. It really is a monstrous sound. Like, normally I don't like using pedals in front of amps, but this kind of thing I would make an exception for, because it's just that good. It really is just one of those amps that's that good, and you know, there's you can tell there's quality behind the product, and it's sick. So finally, that's a Mesa Boogie on the channel, the dual rectifier roadster. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more chaos. See you in the next video.